What's going on, y'all? This is Q Ortiz, your local San Diego massage therapist, musician, and artist. And today we're talking about e-bikes because I get this question so many times. Just people looking at my e-bike, asking me about it, all these different questions. So I wanted to do a quick video on what to think about regarding e-bikes and why they're so cool, what's the downside to them, just to give you a rough idea on that moving forward. Now, when I got my first e-bike, it was a situation where I ran into uh, getting into Dave Ramsey 7 baby steps and getting into the idea of some of the lessons my aunt was teaching me regarding budgeting and how you always want to decrease the expenses and increase the income, right? Just as a general rule of thumb, that just means that your your overhead, what you are spending monthly, is decreasing. You're finding ways to decrease that. And if you can't, right, if it stays the same, but the income is increasing, or it's rising, but the income is way higher to where it's not so affecting, then awesome. But in that time, I was really getting into the minimalist path, and I didn't have a car at the time. That's another story. I was riding a bike, actually, riding a bike, and I was trying to figure out how could I get around, how could I make this work? Because as I mentioned, I do massage therapy as well. So I would need to ride my bike to a client, and that's if my table was at the office. So I would ride my bike there and have to have a change of clothes in my bag because I was sweating and I didn't want to show up for the massage like that. So I was just trying to figure out, how could I travel? How could I make this work? And I looked into mopeds to where they needed to be, it was a certain speed where you maybe didn't need the license. But in general, here in California, you needed the motorcycle license to ride the moped. So that was getting in the way, even though those look cool. Cars were just like, it's like a luxury. If you don't have it and you need to buy a car, it's a good stack of money. And then just questioning with the idea of minimalism, as I was mentioning, was, okay, what do I need? Like, do I need a car? Would I benefit specifically from the car? Or am I just saying that because it's easier or more convenient to get around? So really observing what is the need. And I came across e-bikes. I was just looking online, researching, looking up different ways to transport, looking at scooters, motorized scooters, looking at e-bikes, and just finding that, especially with class A on the e-bike, that's having to do with the speed. If they're under 20 miles per hour, I don't know if the rules change after this video or whatever, but at this time with the class A, if they're under 20 miles per hour, then you don't need to register it, you don't need to insure it, and you could ride in the bike lane. So for me, I just had that in my mind, like, okay, I don't have to register it. So think about expenses, right? Registration is an expense. That's yearly. Insurance is monthly. Gas is not gas. That's weekly, every few days. However, that goes with those kind of, with the mopeds and all of that. So I was observing that aspect. Like, okay, well, I could get around. I'm already getting around on a bike. What what make life a little bit easier is if I can go up these hills and not be dying every day, because I'm going up and down a hill. My house was at the bottom of a hill. So I would go up and down that hill multiple times in the day. And yeah, I think riding a bicycle in general is character building, because it's very humbling to ride a bicycle. It's definitely humbling going up the hills, but it's rewarding as well when you get up that hill and then you cruising down the hill. It's fun. But when it's just, for me, it was just about getting around. How can I get around to my passions, right? So if I have my life set up to where I'm heading to do massage, or I'm heading to do music, or there's something about art, I want to be able to go there with the freshest energy. And if I'm riding a bicycle, it's cool. I'm getting this exercise, but then I'm heading to a kung fu class or a qigong class or doing massage, and I'm like already drained from riding up this mountain to get right here. So I ended up going to I know it's a longer story. I apologize if I'm eating into you, if you wanting the answer. But I feel like I'm just giving you insight as well on my mindset around getting the e-bike. So in looking for the e-bike, I was also, one thing you want to look at is what kind of style. What kind of style are you looking for? They have mountain e-bikes. They have more cruiser, like beach cruiser styles. They have the commuter bikes. So I got a commuter one that folds, where I would be able to hop in the trolley, fold it, hop in the bus, fold it. If I needed to take a lift, fold it, throw it in the trunk. If I was with a friend, I met up with a friend, they had a car, we could fold it, put it in the back seat, put it in the trunk, and that's it. Just be able to travel like that. So that was my particular vision. I knew that I would need to go through those kind of things. Another thing is the weight. Look up the weight, figure that out, because when if you need to carry that bike anywhere, you want to know the weight of it. My first bike was like 60 pounds, and I would need to carry it upstairs, up and downstairs. So that became just not a nightmare, but it just became one of those inconveniences of, okay, got to carry this bike up and down. And I still do that, but I have a different bike now, and it's maybe 40 pounds. So 20 pounds less, 30 to 40 pounds. And I'm picking that one up. I have the Swagtron EB7 right now. And getting to this point, the EB7, it has a removable battery. So with the removable battery, you're able to take it from the bike, plug it in anywhere. Whereas if your battery doesn't remove, you cannot, you can't plug it in without the bike being by the plug, right? So in this case, when you can remove the battery, you could put the bike anywhere, fold it up, put it in the corner somewhere, and then have the battery plugged up just wherever you want. All right. Another thing to look at is the size. So we talked about style. With this commuter bike, my first one was 20 inches, 20-inch tires, which was pretty good. It's still small tires, but the way that it fit in the back seat, it still needed work. It still needed like some work to fit there. Even though it worked, it worked. I was able to get that going. But in my next go around in researching, I found the 16-inch one, and that was positive just for that, the size. It was able to fit in the backseat easy, no problem, nothing. Let's see. So we talked about the style, the battery, definitely looking at the motor. And if you could find like good quality batteries, just generally if you're buying something that's more low end, like with the Swagtron, you might get a battery that's the batteries I've seen, they've lasted at least 2 years, at least 2 years. And there are others that rebuild batteries. There's other spots that rebuild batteries to where they extend your battery life and push your motor. So that could be something to look into. It's not something that's easily given as far as the information. Nobody really talks about it, but with experience, you find, oh, okay, the reason why the bike is low end is because you might have the lower quality battery, lower quality brakes, right? The brake pads. Um, one thing, or like the material of the bike itself. My seat post broke, like the frame that was holding the seat post, that broke. So I had to figure out a way to get that bolted into my bike. So when I was going to the bike shop, they could like hold on to the post so they could change my tire out and whatnot. So something to look at, just the quality. You want to look at even with the brakes on this bike, they were specialized. So that would mean that, and this is the point of, if you want to get something from a different country, like China, some of these bikes is like made in China. My first one was, and you either you're looking at if you want to get it from out of the country or you want it USA made, especially, and you go into a shop that sells those and makes those here, right, and repairs them, fixes them, so you can go there. Because bike shops, different ones, they won't even work on your e-bike because it's a liability. They don't want to be liable for your electric system messing up because they try to loosen this or tighten that. So that's another thing to look at, just seeing who can work on your bike if it needs work, and also, yeah, learning too what you can do on your bike. But when you're looking at if it's from a different country, it might be lower cost, but you might be sacrificing that customer service, the quality of the batteries, that lithium. So I'm hearing about certain people's batteries exploding or catching fire, right? Like you got to look at, and that's just general with lithium batteries. So just something to be cautious of in that realm. Then with the brakes, I was saying this bike, it was specialized. The brakes were specialized. So that would mean if there was a problem, you would need to package the bike up and send it to them for a fee for them to fix it or do whatever, and then they send it back. Unfortunately for me, that's like my car, right? I need to be riding it. And if they're taking it away and I'm needing to use Lyft or Uber or whatever ride share, right? That's costly. If you've ever ridden Uber daily or Lyft daily, you know that, especially if you're making multiple moves in a day, it stacks up on you. It'd be like 15, 15, 15, 10, like one day, because you going there and then you coming back. So something to look at in that regard as well. Like, what's your backup plan, right? How are you traveling on the backup? If the bus is available, finding that. Let's see. So with the brakes, I was able to get new calipers, and that's what's holding the brake pads. I got new calipers, so then it's universal. So I can go to any bike shop and get the brake pads there instead of having to send this bike to the shop. So that was also positive. Um, and yeah, I mentioned if you getting it from a different country, you got to look at that customer service. because with my first bike, the motor, something stalled with the motor. I brought it to this bike shop. They had to call China. They weren't picking up. It was problems. It took like weeks for me to, I don't even know how long. It took a while. Definitely weeks. Yeah, I want to say if it was a month but definitely weeks where I didn't have that bike and I had to get around how I needed to just to make things work. So definitely keep that in mind when you're looking for your bike. Let's see. But yeah, so that I think I expressed some positives, some downsides. But just to get deeper into it, like positive, you it's like gliding around. You just gliding on the streets. It's such a fun experience to ride the e-bike, just cruising, get where you need to go, timely. If you don't like traffic, the e-bike is awesome at, excuse me, this one got the Instapot, got some squash cooking. But yeah, cruising on the street, you don't like traffic, you already know how bikes are, where you could just sort of go to the side of the traffic and squeeze through there. So with the e-bike, it's similar, where people lined up in their cars and then you just cruise by. You don't really deal with traffic like that on the e-bike. Only traffic is if there are other bikers, but you sort of figure that out, whether you need to ride with them or find a spot where you could go around and zip by if they're not one of them racer bikers just pedaling faster than the e-bikes. And again, I'm talking about class A. I'm talking about 20 miles per hour and less, because that's where you're in that bike lane. You're able to be in the bike lane, no license, no registration, no insurance. I forgot to say license earlier. Yeah, you don't need any of that to ride the e-bike. So that's positive. It's no gas. You just plug it in. I was able to get 2 batteries. So that's another thing to look at is range. How far can you go on your bike? That's determined by with the battery. So it may say 12 hours, 20 hours, 500 hours, but something to look at is hills. Hills eat up that battery. Hills eat the energy. Hills absorb that energy that you're not exerting. So that's something to look into, just looking at the range, right? Just reading about that, seeing the different speeds of the bike. If it's 0 to 3, maybe it goes up to 5. With the less speed, the less energy that it takes to go. So you have more longevity. If you're going faster, usually that eats the battery faster. So when they say last this amount of hours, usually it's on the minimal setting. So just keep that in mind. Just don't think that you can have it on high, the highest level, and go the furthest as it's advertising. All right, something to look at there. So yeah, we're talking about the range, um, cruising past the traffic, something you're not, if you're not into that, you just cruise by. I mentioned with the foldability with this specific bike that I have, it's great for that. Um, let's see. I'll just get into some downsides. It's a bike. So, oh, actually, a positive is with the maintenance, with the repairs. Yeah, you're spending money, but it's not like how you're spending on a car. When something goes wrong in the car, you looking at hundreds of dollars just for that one part, for this part. But with the e-bike, I noticed, yeah, it's not like if something happens with your tires, it's okay, $20 or 15, or if you're able to fix it yourself, you just get the inner tubes yourself, have the tools and patch it if you need to. Just, yeah, it's a little different than with the car. And yeah, I think that's positive. That helps with as far as like that saving quality, that saving and the expense quality, if you can make it work. As far as the downside, I mentioned it is a bike, so whatever you can carry, that's what you're limited to on a bike, right? Some, they have those racks. You could do surfboards. If you have surfboards, they have baskets, whatever fits in the basket, cargo racks, those bags on the side. You can do all of that, but just know that you're limited to what you can carry, right? It's not a car. Car, you have the trunk, toss it in the trunk, boom. So yeah, that's something to look at. E-bikes, you're limited to the range of your bike. So I mentioned I have 2 batteries, so my range is increased. If I only had one, like I did with my first bike, I was completely reliant on that one battery. So it would even limit my social engagements. If I was, say I had class, but then I had work after class, maybe a couple of hours after work. I mean, a couple of afters, uh, excuse me, a couple of hours after class, I had work. So I would need to ride home from training right after to plug my battery in to have enough battery power to get to work on time. And with the functional battery not dying on me on the way there, right? So that's something that you would need to look into, is the range. Do you need another battery? How does that look for your life to be able to, boom, swap out the batteries, keep moving, no problem. You go to work, plug in the battery, no problem. You getting out, full batteries, no problem. So that's something to look into, where your battery can run out while you're riding. And if you have a bike that has pedals, then you could pedal. Usually those frames are heavier, so that's where it can be more troubling, right, to ride that. But yeah, you probably couldn't ride it. You might need to do a lift or something to bring it back home. But if you have pedals, you could at least pedal to get home or wherever you're going. Hey, I'm running late. If you go, if it's time crucial. Yeah. So looking out for that. What's another negative? Negative, I mentioned with the bike shop, some won't work on your bike. So you run into that problem where, yeah, you have to find specific shops, learn what shops work on e-bikes so you know where you can go for yours. Um, let's see. Yeah, I think I covered the majority. I hope that gave you an idea moving forward. If you're curious about e-bikes, you've seen them around, you're wondering about them. Um, yeah, actually one thing is, yeah, be careful because it's electronic. So it has a throttle. Some of them have throttles where you boom pull it and then the bike will go. If you're not comfortable, you need to practice on those kind of bikes. Learn your bike, because you don't know how fast it picks up. It just takes time. You need to just take the time to learn what that bike is capable of and then move forward from there. Um, yeah, I think I pretty much covered just like general basics about it. And if you have any other questions, please do reach out, leave a comment below, send a question to any one of the Instagram links in the description. Just let me know if I missed anything. I can consider reformatting this if you would like it to be a different way, but this was just more from experience, giving you the idea about e-bikes and what to consider when you're purchasing it. And also I gave you in the beginning my sort of backstory in finding the e-bike through minimalism, through the baby steps from Dave Ramsey, through that application of how can I reduce my expenses and increase the revenue. And this move was more about decreasing the expense, decreasing the overhead, not having to have this continual expense that has me sort of subscribe to it. How could I eject myself from that situation and really find what I need? How can I move around on my own time? Because that's like one of the top pieces. If you're able to move around on the e-bike, if it's reasonable, then look at, you're able to leave your house, hop on your e-bike, ride where you need to go. You don't worry about parking. That's another piece. You ride where you need to go, store that bike. Yeah, you want to lock it. Definitely want to find a spot to lock it, because people, you know how people are, and those e-bikes are expensive, especially when you're looking at those higher end models, thousands of dollars. They're like cars. People riding those, like, they like cars already. So it's just something to look at in there. But no parking, get to your spot, boom, ride back. It's direct. It's direct. I tried to ride a bus before because I actually fell off of my first e-bike. That's a story also. But in there, I couldn't ride it for a little bit, and I was taking the bus, and I noticed it's on their time. You walking to the stop, waiting, you get on the bus. It doesn't even take you directly to where you're going. Then you need to walk more. So not to, yeah, the bus is what it is. It's cool. But I noticed with the e-bike, the freedom that it gave me when I was able to just hop on, go where I needed to go, and come back. I was even able to, this is a bonus for you, with, if you were doing food delivery, if you're into that, right? That's another story why I stopped doing the food delivery. But yeah, you could, if you want to know about that, leave a comment below. I know that you got this far. If you want to hear how why I stopped doing food delivery. So even with that bike, you could sign up for those apps. Some of them have bike couriers, and you could pick the bike one and have your e-bike and be able to cruise. And that's one way to turn, say, a liability into an asset. You have this e-bike, you're able to flip it. Now it's something that's helping you make some money, right? I would do that for, say I'm going grocery shopping, cut the app on. Then people ordering some food, boom, deliver that, make a couple bucks while I'm on the way to the grocery store. Go get the food, boom, they ring it again, make another delivery. So it's different ways that it can be utilized, and it's yours for the taking. It's yours. So it depends on what you're interested in doing, what you want to do, whether it's recreational, it's just more casual, or you're looking at it as a sort of investment to build yourself, to take certain steps. Maybe, okay, what if I got this e-bike is sort of, the price range is here to entry. If I'm able to stack up while I'm doing this, maybe I could sell that and buy a car if I need a car, or just figuring out those kind of plans for yourself, whatever that is for you. All right. Well, I hope you enjoyed all that. I didn't expect to be on this long, but it felt natural, and it felt like the different points I needed to make regarding you considering getting an e-bike, and just things to think about. in that realm. All right. Well, click like if you like this video. Please share it with anyone you think is interested in e-bikes. And I mentioned before, you could leave a comment below. If you have any questions, please do send your questions in to the email, also the Instagram links in the description. And you could speak about any one of those topics, or with the e-bike, I'm on that, with the minimalism, however that looks, mucusless diet, massage, right? The music, art, all that, whatever you want to ask, just send your questions in. All right. Well, if you want to continue on this journey with me, click subscribe and we can vibe. Peace out.